All right, today I'm talking about the life worth observing. I think I don't know. It might have been Socrates that said something about the unexamined life is not worthy of living. I think there's multiple implications behind that phrase, but I do want to focus on this one concept. If you can observe yourself doing a bad or negative behavior, then you can change it. So if you have the capacity or capability of observing the fact that you are doing something that you don't like, then you can master it. You can improve it. It's when we're incapable of stepping back and observing ourselves with doing that behavior. That's the problem. So you actually won't know you have that a problem that you can't fix. You'll never really know you have the problem. But if you can see yourself doing it, then you have absolute total power over that behavior. And so many people I hear will say, I'll never be able to stop doing that, or I can't stop doing that. And that's just not true, because if they can visualize and see themselves doing it, they can visualize and see themselves not doing it. Which is truly what's powerful about living our lives. Now, there is real power behind self-observation. I think it's the first step to change. It's the ability to view ourselves dispassionately. Like, take a step back and look at ourselves and go, how am I really acting? What's really going on here? And by making that self-evaluation, that self-prognosis, then you can start to have control over that. Now, I don't need to dive into it, but there's a ton of science behind the cognitive behavioral. There's a whole slew of cognitive behavioral theories on this subject. Self-observation, I think I can say unequivocally, is scientifically based, that self-observation is absolutely the precursor to change. You just cannot change unless you can visualize yourself. To view yourself as a system, or view yourself from 10 feet up and look down upon yourself. It's the idea that I can recognize what I'm doing. I think, to put it more succinctly, it's what we call being mindful. You hear meditation people always talk about being mindful. Well, this is being mindful. When you're able to visualize what you're doing and really understand why you're doing it, then you now know, you have it in your mind. You recognize it. You're not just aimlessly and mindlessly going about an activity. Like, you could have a very bad habit that you do, like chewing your nails. Like, I'm chewing my nails. Well, that you could go on every day mindlessly doing this. Or you name the vice. It could be lying. It could be over exaggerating. It could be using curse words that you don't want to use. It could be speaking ill of people, or gossiping, or whatever it happens to be. There could be some behavioral pattern that is not attractive to others, or that you don't like yourself, or that doesn't get you ahead in life, but you're constantly doing it. The danger is that you're mindlessly doing that. Like, there's a few behavior tweaks quirks that I have, things that I do mindlessly. And every once in a while, I'll recognize that I'm doing it. And then I'll take a step back and I'll realize, oh man, I am doing that. Like, one of my biggest ones is I have this tendency to get cynical. And so my default response to anybody and everybody is always cynicism. And honestly, that gets tiring. It does. I mean, I've been around people like this, and it's like, God, would you shut up? Well, I do this. And a lot of times I do it unconsciously. Like, it's not a conscious thing. It's just the way I was raised or the way I grew up, or maybe, I was really well read when I was a kid. So I observed the world by what I had been reading. And so maybe I just developed an opinion about the world that led me down a path of cynicism. So now I've overcome that, although I still have a tendency to do it. I mean, when I'm stressed or feeling anxious, I'll slip into this, and this is mindless. But when I'm mindful and I visualize what I'm doing and I understand what I'm doing and why I'm doing it, then I have power over it. I can visualize how I can change that. Instead of saying the first thing that comes to my mind, I take a deep breath and really evaluate it and say the thing that's probably the most appropriate thing to say. I mean, I'm not going to change my personality. I view things differently than other people. Like I view things, I always want to look at something from a different lens. If somebody says to look at it this way, I'm automatically going to look at it a different way. That's just the way I'm wired. It's just always looking at, if somebody hands me a box and says, what is this? Well, I'm not going to just say a box. I'm going to look all around it, in it, out of everywhere to determine what it is before I say. So I'm not talking about personality changes here. I think that's probably impossible. But I am talking about having a philosophical perspective on your own life and doing self-observation so that you can determine what it is that you're doing that you need to improve upon. And it starts with actually being able to observe yourself doing it. I think in context, this is the best way, if not the only way, to truly improve. It's by recognizing that you're doing something, observing when and why you do it, and then understanding what's going on, and then consciously making practical strategies for change. I think that if you embrace that self-observation throughout the journey of life, yeah, you're going to make mistakes, and you're going to make people mad, and you're going to make people upset, and people aren't going to like you, and all the above. But at least you can recognize that you're doing it. So anyway, I don't know if that helps, but that's something that's helped me, is to take this 10,000 foot view of my life on a regular basis. I usually do it once a week, by the way. So once a week, usually on Sundays, I try to take some reflection time and ask myself, how am I behaving? Am I behaving correctly or incorrectly? Let me think back and just visualize the interactions I had with people. Were they good? How were they received? Would somebody have liked that? Would somebody have not liked that? So I like to think that through. And sometimes I feel like, oh man, I really was not acting right. But you can change it. You can fix it. That's the whole beauty of it. It's like this power of self-observation is a constant tweaking process.